The Step Back is also brought to you by Spotify. On Spotify, you can listen to all of your favorite artists and podcasts in one place for free. You don't even need a premium account. Spotify has a huge catalog of podcasts on every topic, including the one you're listening to right now. On Spotify, you can follow your favorite podcasts so you never miss an episode, and premium users can download episodes to listen to offline wherever they are. You can also easily share what you're listening to with your friends on Instagram. If you haven't done so already, be sure to download the Spotify app and search for The Step Back, a Mavs podcast on Spotify, or browse podcasts in the Your Library tab. Also, make sure to follow us so you never miss an episode of The Step Back.
Hey, this is Dirk Nowitzki, and you're listening to the Mavs Step Back podcast.
I like this, TK. I like that. Yeah, it's the Mavericks, all about action. Don't do no acting, no Samuel Jackson. Dirk get the ball, you know that it's magic. Post move deadly, yeah, get tragic. Luke with the ball, yeah, get nasty. He'll drop 30, don't gotta ask him. Got Kristaps, coach at the Adam, I spaz like Dallas. I thought I'm rapping, God. If Luka shoot the ball, you know that it's cash. But my boy still looking to pass. Now he got my boy Kristaps, looking like Duncan Nash in the gap. They just want a ring, wanna fill the gap on your team head. I ain't talking hats, dang, go relax. Still at the champs, defense still coming with the cannabis flow. The master best.
All right, everybody, welcome into another edition of the Step Back, a Mavs podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Trigg. I'm joined by my co-host and DallasBasketball.com colleague, Matt Galatzan. Tonight, we have a real treat for you guys, a special guest. He's the host of the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio. You can catch him on First Take from time to time. It's Will Cain. How's it going, Will?
What's up, fellas? It's going really well.
Yeah, Will, if I got this right, you live in New York now, right? But you are a Texas guy.
That's right. I was born and raised in Sherman, which is about an hour north of Dallas. I've been a fan of every Dallas team since as long as I can remember. Mavs, Cowboys, Rangers, and Texas Longhorns since seeming like birth.
Right. So you're a self-proclaimed Mavs fan for life. That'll lead us right into our first topic. The Mavs went into this year's free agency, having swung that big trade for Kristaps Porzingis earlier in the season, and then they turned around and flipped Harrison Barnes to the Kings and opened up almost near max cap space, and free agency just didn't really seem to go as planned. And obviously the Mavs and their front office, they have a way of trying to lessen the blow, so to speak, to the media, but it obviously didn't go the way they wanted it to. I'm curious to get your thoughts, Will. Do you think the Mavs were as aggressive as they should have been this free agency period, or what do you think they could have done better to have better results than what they've had so far?
No, I don't think they were as aggressive as they should have been, and I can focus in for me on a couple of guys. Now, look, ever since we all can remember, for whatever reason, the Mavericks haven't been a free agent destination. We all know this, and it's like one of the great mysteries, the seven wonders of the world. Right. Why do free agents not want to come to Dallas? I've been reading DallasBasketball.com since at least 2006, and it may have been before that in 2005. I mean, man, I was there for it, for the dust chip. I was there for it through all the – you remember the dust chip, Eric Dampier? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All the machinations of trying to get Jason Kidd on the second go-around, all of it. And we've always had to do our business through trades. Now, why, man? I mean, I don't know. I really don't know. We all try to convince ourselves, no state sales tax, or no state income tax, and all these different things that can attract a free agent. And I don't know. I don't understand why it doesn't work. But I do not think they were aggressive enough, even in that environment. We thought they'd be in the running for Kemba, right? Well, when the Celtics and Kyrie part ways, Kemba looks like he wants to go to Boston and sees that as a fit, so the Mavericks on the outside looking in. I don't know that Horford was ever the right fit in Dallas, considering age and cost. I like Horford a lot, but I don't know that he ever matched up with our young guys where we are in the building process. But there were two guys that I'm like, why aren't we more aggressive in going after these two guys? One is Bogdanović.
Absolutely.
They went from the Pacers to the Jazz. I think he would have fit in wonderfully, can shoot from three. And right now, that's the main thing I want. I want defense and guys that can shoot from three around Kristaps and Luka. But even more than Bogdanovic, the guy that I really thought, why did this team pull it off and the Mavs weren't in on this, was Malcolm Brogdon. It was Brogdon to the Pacers. And in a sign and trade, he's a restricted free agent. It ended up being 4 for $85, and I can deal with that. I can deal with $21 million. The Mavs currently, they obviously had space for it, and he fits those things they wanted. Carlisle likes a second ball handler. He's a point guard. He plays defense. He shoots from three. He's a great locker room presence. I mean, Brogdon, to me, was the perfect fit for the Mavs, and I don't know why we weren't aggressive there where the Pacers were.
Right, yeah. Going back to Bogdanovic, and you probably read it on DallasBasketball.com, a little bit earlier before free agency started, but that was my what I called Plan B to the Plan K, which there were so many big time free agents that started with K. Well, my Plan B was to pair Patrick Beverley with Bojan Bogdanovic from Indiana, and I thought that would be a great combination as far as both guys shooting plus 40% from three. Beverley, he's the better defender, obviously, but like you said, Bogdanovic, he would have been a great fit. But I agree with you. They weren't near as aggressive as they should have been. I think.
Where were you guys on Brogdon? Did you like Brogdon as much as I did? See, he's kind of the mixture between Bogdanovic and Beverley to me. He gets defense and shooting.
Yeah, Matt, I'll let you go into what your thoughts on Brogdon too. I'll say this real quick though. I loved Brogdon. I loved what he would have brought to the Mavs. I think they were a little bit scared off by his medical history, or at least that's what I heard. So, but I mean, you just gave Kristaps Porzingis a 5-year max contract. So I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about all that. But Matt, what were your thoughts on their lack of interest in Brogdon?
Well, my whole thing with, if anybody read DallasBasketball.com this week, you saw what I put out about the way that they talked going into the season about splitting their aces and taking things into a new stratosphere, and
right.
Maybe the Brogdon thing wasn't taking it into a new stratosphere, but that definitely would have fallen under the splitting your aces category.
It would have elevated it more than DeLon Wright, which
correct.
Right.
So the fact that, like you said, Dalton, the fact that they're comfortable enough to give Kristaps a huge deal, but not give Brogdon a lesser 4-year $85 million deal. I mean, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I'd rather take the risk with the Mavericks training staff and then just like they did with Wesley Matthews. He was coming off an Achilles. That didn't scare you away. Why does a foot problem scare you away? So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me either. But also, obviously we can kind of transition for that medical talk. The Mavs had that trade with Kristaps, Porzingis, and the Knicks. And basically, Will, my question for you is, considering what the Knicks did in this free agency, we can kind of get a better grasp on who really won out in that deal. And I have a feeling which way you're going to lean, but can you tell us how you feel about the final results of the Kristaps and Mavericks trade?
Oh, it was a slam dunk for the Mavericks. I mean, slam dunk for Dallas, and we haven't even seen Kristaps on the floor yet. Look, from the Knicks side of the equation, you have to chalk it up as a massive loss. I don't care what they say, and I don't care how prudent they try to appear today about doing smart business. That trade was done. Look, I know that Porzingis supposedly put him to an ultimatum, didn't want to be in New York anymore, didn't trust the brass, but they made that trade to clear up cap space to get KD and Kyrie, or at least two superstars, KD being one of them. That didn't happen for them, so they took a big loss. Now they got Dennis Smith Jr. And on the Mavericks side, you have Kristaps Porzingis, and you've got two of the youngest, best duos in the entire league. Unless Porzingis never overcomes these injuries, never comes back the same, I think this is an absolute slam dunk win for the Mavs.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, now, if we're just looking at free agency just separate from the trade itself, I think
Right.
I think the Knicks had a little bit better free agency as far as acquiring players. The level of talent of those players that they got and the amount of those players they got, I think they had the upper hand there. But like Matt was saying,
how many of those guys would you want though on the Mavs? Randle, Portis, Gibson. How many of those guys?
Yeah.
Randle at least.
The Knicks got power forward happy there. They signed like 5 power forwards. And then before we got on here, it was announced that they signed Marcus Morris. He backed out of his deal with the Spurs and signed with them.
So another power forward.
Yeah, they got another one.
Big lineup at least.
When you consider that trade, though, I mean, it's just like you said. I think it's a slam dunk as well, because you essentially traded Porzingis to get Tim Hardaway Jr. and Courtney Lee off of your books, so you could have that double max cap space, and it just completely blew up in their face. So, like you said, we need to see Kristaps Porzingis on the floor, but I don't think there's any doubt about it. What the final result is going to be when it comes to who won that trade. But
back to the free agency thing. There's 2 players there on the Knicks that I actually was interested in, the Mavs making a play for. I was interested in Julius Randle, and I know apparently the Mavericks never were, but the pairing of Randle and Porzingis offensively was always interesting to me.
Right.
Randle at the 5 and Porzingis at the 4. Randle could shoot better this past year. You'll never know. Well, we'll know soon, I guess, if that was a 1-year aberration or if that was a newfound outside shooting stroke for Randle. But I was just kind of intrigued. I know Zach Lowe's written about that too. Intrigued by the pairing of Randle and Kristaps Porzingis. And then I do like Marcus Morris. I do think that's something I would have been interested in. He's the kind of player I feel like is a winning player, just a grinder. On the Mavs side, I love bringing Seth Curry back. I mean,
oh yeah.
I'm really excited about that. I was excited when he was here, disappointed when he left the first time, and still feel like I don't know how old Seth is at this point, but I still feel like there's a ton of untapped potential in him. Anybody that can shoot 45% from 3, and then if fitting in again with Kristaps and Luka, I'm excited about Seth Curry.
Yeah, you can go back to before I talk about Seth, going back to what you said about Randle, he's a guy that's always kind of intrigued me, and all the Mavs fans out there have seen, or most of them, and the ones that I've seen have wanted Randle in Dallas, even though the Mavs, like you said, haven't seemed interested. But, I mean, he would have brought a really, really good inside presence for that team, which is, they're trying to find. I think the Mavs are trying to make it to where Porzingis doesn't have to play the 5. He can if he needs to, but I think they want to keep him at the 4 and then maybe just have him play the 5 on defense, something like that. But yeah, I don't understand the complete lack of interest in Randle, but I mean, hey, he's making $60 million over 3 years with the Knicks now, so good for him. Yeah. But yeah, Seth Curry, that's a really nice deal for him. I think he's making $8 million per year over the next 4, 45% from 3. And if you go back and look at some of the highlights, some of the plays he had in his last stint in Dallas, and how he ran the pick and roll with Dirk, and how I think our guy Bobby Corrala from Mavs.com, he mentioned today that Seth Curry, for his entire career, shoots 50% on corner threes, which is outrageous. So that definitely runs in the family. It's a great value deal for them. And, I mean, I think he's going to make a much bigger impact than a lot of people were thinking initially. But
well, not only that, but the pairing of him and DeLon Wright, I think, is going to be very, very interesting to say the least. Because one's defense, get to the rim, and then the other is more of a finesse shooting guy. And I think they're going to be able to play very well off of each other in conjunction with Luka and the pick and roll and the way that they like to flow in their offense. I think it's going to be a pretty nice pairing.
Let me ask you. Do you mind if I ask you guys a couple questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, okay, does DeLon Wright start, or does he come in on the second unit, run a pick and roll with somebody else, either with staggered minutes with Kristaps or run it with Dwight Powell? That's what I'm wondering they're going to do. What are they going to do with DeLon Wright? Because, by the way, on Seth, I think Seth fits with everybody. That's my point. He can be on the floor at any time with that third outside option to anybody's pick and roll, any offense. I'm jazzed about Seth, and maybe it's because I'm pretending he's Steph. but I'm really excited about him. I don't know yet. I like DeLon Wright. I like the defense. I like his size. I'm curious how they end up using him.
Yeah, I think it's going to depend if they make another move or not before they get to training camp and the start of the season. If everything stays as is and they don't make another significant move, I think he probably starts, and he probably starts at the 2. From the advanced numbers I've seen, he has been far and away a better player when he plays at the shooting guard position versus the point guard position. Almost every category you look at in those advanced stats, he was in like the 93rd to the 96th percentile when he was at shooting guard, and it wasn't near as good at point guard. So I think that's where he'll be at. I think he'll start at shooting guard if the Mavs don't make another significant move. Matt, what do you see them doing with DeLon Wright?
Well, I think they acquired him and paid him that kind of money so that he would start, because I think that their perimeter defense, especially within the guards, was I don't want to say atrocious, but it was pretty damn near close to atrocious. And he can rebound too, which is something that they really want out of their guard position. So I imagine he'll start.
You can keep going with that too. I just wanted to chime in real quick and say that's another thing about Seth Curry that I think is a little bit underrated. He's not a terrible defender. Like he made some big plays for Portland in that playoff run. When they got to the Western Conference Finals, he had some really big plays on the defensive end of the court. So I think that's a little bit of an underrated part of Curry's game.
So you guys, I agree with you totally on the defense, and that's something. So you've got Wright and Luka, Kristaps, and I assume Dwight Powell in the starting lineup, and then somebody at the, what are we going to call it, the 3? Like Jackson or Hardaway at the 3?
Well, in my opinion, I think that you could go either start Seth and DeLon with Luka at the 3, or you could start DeLon and Luka, and if you go out and make a move for a 3, like we've heard Fish talking today about the potential of or Iguodala, the potential of getting involved with Houston in a Russell Westbrook trade, or Miami in a Russell Westbrook trade, or to take money from somebody so that they can make that move happen and get a player in that regard. But I think they could go really any way with it. The thing is, Rick Carlisle never has a real static starting lineup. He does things based on matchups and who they're up against. So I think you'll see Seth start at least 25 to 30 games next year at the 2.
I'll say this: right now, taking all things into consideration, how it's gone for the Mavs this summer, and what could potentially happen depending on what happens with Russell Westbrook. My dream starting lineup at this point, like if I had to plug one more guy into that lineup, I would have Luka at point guard, DeLon Wright at shooting guard, mainly for the defense. And then I'd like to have Danilo Gallinari at the 3. And then either, do something with Kristaps and Dwight Powell at the 4 and the 5. Maybe even put Maxey in there at the 5. But I really, really like the idea of getting Gallinari from OKC in some kind of, salary dump deal.
So you want to give me? I'll give you one of my theories here, and this will tie into Gallinari and the Mavericks. Everybody can get pretty depressed about this whole star hunting aspect of the NBA. I imagine if you're a Thunder fan today, you're pretty down in the dumps about everything you've built and seen fall apart over the last couple of years. And I look at 2 teams, and I think, no, these 2 teams provide hope for the entire NBA. The Pacers and the Jazz. 2 teams that watched a superstar walk away from their team, and then they built with the remnants. Gordon Hayward leaves the Jazz, and they build that thing up underneath that destruction to what they are today. Paul George forces his way out of Indiana, and they're building around Oladipo and Brogdon, and they just look like a smart organization. And I think smart organizations, like the Spurs have for years, find value in the shrapnel of other big deals, right? And so whatever's going on in Oklahoma City with Steven Adams or Danilo Gallinari, which is actually shrapnel from Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in Los Angeles. Smart teams, and maybe this is me being the eternal optimist, and I look at the Mavs, and they were preserving that cap space, after a while, was it worth spending that money on C-level free agents and waiting and seeing what you can take in shrapnel from other teams? It's smart. I keep hoping for that to be the Mavericks' MO, what they're going to do. If we're not going to be star hunters, maybe that's what we can do with this kind of room. But we just haven't done it yet.
Right. And the whole thing with the, Mike Fisher, he reported last night that the Mavs have been talking with the Memphis Grizzlies for Andre Iguodala, and
right.
They don't want to take back Courtney Lee, even though he's making, I think, $5 million less, $5 million less than Iguodala. But last week the Memphis Grizzlies, or it was reported that they were thinking about buying him out. So I mean, if I had to guess, I would say Andre Iguodala doesn't want to play in Memphis, and I really don't know what better offers they're going to get for him, because the Warriors had to give Memphis a first-round pick to take him in the first place. So I don't know. I don't know how that situation will turn out. To me, it kind of feels like the Mavs are waiting to see what happens with the Westbrook situation, to see if there's a better opportunity.
Right. There could be shrapnel coming off that deal.
Right. So, but I wouldn't be shocked at all if they ended up making the Iguodala deal and he's your starting three, which would, that'd be a good consolation prize for this team, in my opinion.
It feels like the roster right now, the main thing that's missing, besides defense, which always is missing to some degree, is rebounding, right? When I look at it, and I add this roster up, and I go through with just pen, say, how do we get to, what do we need? 40 rebounds plus. I can't add it up, right? I don't know where our rebounding is coming from. Right.
That was another selling point for the Mavs chasing DeLon Wright, is he is a really, really good rebounder for his position. And him and Luka together, if that's your backcourt, that's a really good rebounding backcourt. So that helps it add up a little bit more. But that's what Fish has been saying for a while now, that he thinks they're definitely looking for another big. And he said that they like the idea of potentially pairing Kristaps Porzingis with Clint Capella. And we know the Rockets, they're interested in Russell Westbrook. So if they ended up making a deal for Westbrook, then they're going to have to send out a bunch of salary. So maybe the Mavs can get in on something like that.
No, I was just going to say, and those are the kinds of things that they need to figure out if they're going to make the playoff push that they're trying to put themselves in position for. And that that's also that's kind of the next step in KP and Luka's development. Neither of them have. I don't think KP's been to the playoffs, but neither of them have been to the playoffs as far as I know with KP. And they need to get a lot of people. So a lot of people this summer were like, okay, it's stars or bust, right? But really, the next step for this franchise is getting to the playoffs and getting a taste of that kind of atmosphere. And so what Dalton and I are curious about, and maybe you can answer this for us, is where do you think Luka and KP rank as far as other star duos in the league, and what do you think that they have to do together to help get the Mavs into the playoffs next season?
All right, so I have Luka and KP at 10th right now, with a ton of potential to move up quickly. All right, I thought about this. This is how I have it right now, all right? Number one, you got LeBron and AD. Bottom line is it's like the third and seventh best player in my rankings in the NBA. They're just the best two. Number two, Steph and Clay. I just see what they've done. They're the core of a dynasty, and I think they get constantly disrespected. Three, Kawhi and PG-13. Four, KD and Kyrie. I'm not much of a Kyrie believer. Not big on him, and we got to see what KD comes back like. 5, I've got Jokic and Murray. And now we start getting into, I think, grounds where Luka and KP can get not in the too distant future. 6 is Giannis and Middleton, and that's largely by Giannis, driven by Giannis.
Yeah.
How awesome I think he is. Is that how you're supposed to do it, by the way? If he's so good, does he pull up the pairing? I'm not sure how that works.
I would say so.
7, Lillard and CJ McCollum. 8, Harden and CP3. I'm not a big fan of this duo, but you got to respect what they've done. And then 9, Simmons and Embiid. And then I have Luka and Kristaps. And look, I feel like I'm showing some humility at having them 10th because I want to put them higher. But we've never seen them play 1 minute together. We don't know what Kristaps' health is. Luka just came off his rookie season, albeit an amazing rookie season. I think there are a lot of unknowns in these two, both individually, not with Luka, and as a duo. But I do believe, like, within a year, they could be sitting, like, at that 6, 7, 8 range for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think putting them 10th right now is definitely fair. That's the thing. You know, all those duos that you mentioned above, except for, you know, LeBron and AD, they have a lot of playoff experience. And, well, LeBron definitely has playoff experience by himself, but, you know, AD, he's probably going to get that this year. But, yeah, I agree with that, and I think if they hit the ground running, and Kristaps, I think when the season starts, it'll be, 20 months since he's been on the basketball court, and I think he'll be ready to go. I think he'll be fresh, and if they do what we think they're capable of doing, I could see him getting up in that, you know, top 5 range in the not, like you said, not too distant future. But
now, Dalton, I'll say this: I may have put him at 10th, but I wouldn't trade the pairing for some of the ones I have above them.
Oh yeah,
I wouldn't.
I'd
rather ride this train. Yeah.
Oh yeah. The age is the biggest thing there. You've got Luka at 20 years old, and Kristaps, I think he just turned 24. I mean, the youth is what's crazy. You have them as a top 10 pairing, and they're both in their early 20s. It can only go up from there. But Matt, what do you think about his top 10 there?
I mean, I might swap around a couple of them, but as far as Luka and KP, I mean, obviously I want to put them higher too, but like you guys said, the youth, the upside, the versatility that those two bring with the shooting and the, you know, all the different things they can do together. I think by the end of the year, if all goes as everyone expects, they'll get their first taste of playoff experience, and they'll get to, you know, move their way up that list probably into 5, 6, or 7 range, you know, before you know it.
If somebody was listening in Boston, they might have. What I'm wondering about, we're all Mavs fans here, and we're all being honest about it.
Yeah.
Do you think that, like, what about Kemba and Tatum, or Donovan Mitchell and Mike Conley? Are we being a little rose-colored glasses here? I don't think so. I still want Luka and KP over Kemba and Tatum. But
if I'm just looking at it objectively, taking everything into consideration, and, you know, what we know that Porzingis is capable of when he's healthy, and you have Luka, who just averaged 21, 8, and 6 his rookie year, I don't think it's too far-fetched to have them where they're at. And even when you mention those players you just did, I still think I wouldn't say that we're being complete homers about that. So I think that's.
I think we're being, you know, very objective putting them that low, because if it was, you know, my own personal list and just what popped into my head, I would have them in the top 5 or 6 automatically. So.
Well, look, I was gonna ask this thing last, but I'm gonna move it up just to, you know, transition from what we've been talking about. But we saw so much movement this offseason. There were 9 All-Stars that changed teams. There's no super teams now. There's a lot of really, really good teams, some really good duos like we've talked about. And I mean, do you think this is a good thing for the NBA, Will? Do you think it helps the Mavs' chances of making the playoffs next year, or is it even harder?
I think it's a good thing for the NBA in the short term, and I don't think that's a close call. In the short term, well, but look, I have to acknowledge that some people feel differently. I mean, I don't like super teams. I'm not into the. This is actually my biggest complaint with the NBA. Okay, as an entertainment product, that for several years, going on forever, actually for decades, it's almost a foregone conclusion who's going to win the NBA championship. You know, you have a prohibitive favorite from, you know, Celtics to Heat to Warriors with Spurs mixed in there. And I need more drama. I need more unpredictability. That's what entertainment is. Anything could happen. And yeah, we got that this year, and we got it, and Kawhi is amazing, but we got it because of injuries, largely. But I need the idea that multiple teams are in on winning a championship. And with Kawhi's decision, and it's one of the reasons I respect it and like it so much, I do think you opened up 8, 9 different teams that have reason to tell themselves, hey, we can win it all this year. Let's go win on this. What can we do here? Mavericks aren't in that group. But that's a ton of teams compared to most seasons. And I think that's great for the NBA. There's so many changes I would make to the NBA. If they made me commissioner tomorrow, I really think I could improve this product. This is one of them. By the way, you want 2 others really quickly? I want that midseason tournament that Adam Silver's talking about. I want that one and done, February Madness, FA Cup. I don't know if you're soccer fans, but yes. FA Cup in the middle of the season, I want that. Because by February, half the teams are tanking, and they're already done with the season. Fan bases are out. If you had in a one-and-done tournament, anything could happen, right? So, right. I don't know. I love that idea. And then I want to do away with the lottery. I want to do away with the ping pong balls. And I want to have a postseason tournament of the 14 teams that don't make the playoffs. Again, one and done. And I want the best team to get the first pick. I mean, if you think about the NBA, the biggest problem they have to overcome is what I said earlier, the predictability, and we're on the road now, and tanking, the incentive. So what you end up with over the 82-game schedule is 30 games that either one of the teams doesn't care about, or it's so stacked with a super team that what are you watching? You're watching the Harlem Globetrotters against the Washington, what was it called? Was it the Generals?
Generals, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. That's what you're watching. I'm not in on that. So I know I'm on my soapbox here, but this is what happens when you have a solo radio show.
No, it's great. Keep going.
That's one. Short term, it's good. Long term, here's my thing on this. I do worry about. I don't know if it was 9 All-Stars. How many All-Stars it was?
Yeah, 9.
I do worry about this, man, because you guys. I'll be curious if you feel differently than me on this, but I'm not. I guess. What is the traditional NBA fan now? It seems to me that most NBA fans root for dudes. They're into certain guys. And my favorite player that doesn't wear a Mavericks uniform is Giannis. I love Giannis.
Yes.
But I'm not going to follow Giannis. I can't root for Giannis over the Mavs. My prism I'm getting at into sports, any sport, is I have to have a rooting interest, and that rooting interest has to be the team. And I believe most of it should be birthright. Cowboys, Mavericks, Rangers, those were birthrights for me. The only time in my life I've ever been a sports free agent, fan free agent, was in soccer, because I didn't grow up rooting for soccer. I adopted that some years ago. And everybody tell me I'm a front runner, but I picked Manchester City a little before they were so dominant that they are now.
Yes.
You're a City fan?
Oh, yeah, huge.
Now, hey, by the way, Matt, here's my theory on that. I have to have a theory on these things, right? I picked Man City because I live in New York City, so I didn't grow up with FC Dallas. They came along later. And so my kids are real into soccer, and we got into NYCFC, the MLS club up here, and they're half owned by Manchester City. So I'm like, okay, I can draw a line here, and I like powder blue. So I can draw a line here and be a fan of this team. But what I'm getting at is with players moving so quickly, like Paul George 1 year into a 4-year deal, I'm just worried that over the long term, we're going to erode fans like me, and maybe there aren't that many, but fans that are connected to the team. It's why am I into this dude, this team, who could be here today and gone tomorrow? And I'll tell you, last point, I'm a bigger Cowboys fan than I am a Mavericks fan. But my favorite Dallas athlete of all time is Dirk Nowitzki. And that, and I think that says, I think that says volumes about who he was, the loyalty he showed to Dallas, and the loyalty we owe him in return. See, that's the foundation of my sports stuff. And so dudes moving around the NBA 1 year to the next, I don't know, man. I worry about that over the long run.
Well, and just to branch off of that, I don't know how deep you are into Mavs Twitter, but over the past week, given what happened in free agency, and it seemed that the Mavs missed out on a lot of guys, and there were people out there overreacting already, saying that, oh well, I hope Luka doesn't get disgruntled and demands a trade or starts planning to leave in the near future. When I think the Mavs have at least 7 more years of control, assuming that he's going to take his max extension when his rookie deal's up. So I mean, there's already people thinking about, oh man, what if they can't properly build around Luka and Kristaps Porzingis, and Luka ends up leaving in the future. So, I mean, it's already starting to worry people. I'm not in that group. I think they will take extremely good care of Luka, and I think he's going to be around for a long time. And look, I'm one of those guys that I get excited every free agency, despite what's happened in the past for the Mavs.
Me too. Right.
So I'm looking at some of these really valuable deals that they've been able to sign, even their in-house guys like Kleba and Powell and Dorian Finney-Smith, and all these very doable deals. And they're deals that can be moved if needed later down the road. I really think they have an eye towards 2021 free agency when Giannis is up for it. So
yeah, but man, I can't even allow myself to get excited about that. Like, I'm with you. Like, I'm an optimist every year, but I'm not even going to start. I told myself, don't you dare start hoping for Giannis. Don't do it.
Matt told me that.
That's exactly what I was telling Dalton earlier in the day. He texted me. He sent me like a paragraph about how he thinks that they could really be eyeing 2021. I was just like, man, I'm not ready to be hurt again.
Get out of here with that.
but Will, I wanted to touch on this soccer point real quick before we move on to our last thing. So you talked about changes you would make. One change that I would like to see the NBA make is to go to a more soccer type system where it's just free reign, and if you want to go buy a player, you can go buy a player and pay a ton of money for him. I think that would be really exciting and really great. The soccer transfer window is one of the most exciting things in sports as far as I'm concerned. But also, I wanted to tell you real quick, the way I became a Man City fan was actually because of the Mavericks, because they reminded me of the Mavericks so much. It was, because, they were very average for a long time, successful at the beginning and then average for a long time and then bad for a while, and then a billionaire bought them.
Guys. So, I hate to interrupt here, but Woj just tweeted that Oklahoma City has agreed to trade Russell Westbrook to the Rockets for Chris Paul.
Really?
Yeah, and first-round picks in 2024, 26, and pick swaps in 21 and 25.
Wow.
Wow.
Breaking news on the step back.
So Russ has 4 years left on a 5-year, $200 million deal, right?
Correct.
And what does Chris Paul have left on his? Isn't it like 3? It's similarly bad on an average annual basis, but short, maybe 1 year shorter.
Yeah, I think it's 1 year shorter. He'll be making $44 million at age 37.
Yeah.
Okay, so what Oklahoma City got is 1 less year on the contract and the picks out of that.
That's a shocker to me, man. I did not see that coming.
Russ and Harden. Tell me how that. Well, they were together before. Tell me how that's going to work.
The best player.
They're a little bit different now than they used to be.
The best player from that original trio isn't there.
Right?
Oh,
they're
man.
different now than they used to be, right? Meaning they. How are you going to divide that up? Like,
I'm at a loss. I don't know.
Man, that.
I mean, I'm going to tell you something. Russ is going to stand out there and shoot 29% from 3 while Harden pounds it into the floor and kicks it out to him. It's not going to work.
Oh, man.
A lot of usage.
All that time and energy spent thinking about all these different three-way trade scenarios, and nobody thought, okay, they'll swap Chris Paul for Russell Westbrook.
Well, I thought about it, but I was like, no, that's too boring. They won't do that. But, of course, I'm always thinking of things with Mavs glasses on.
Well,
Oklahoma City, I'll say this. This is a little... The way I was talking up Indiana and Utah earlier, I will say that Oklahoma City is now positioned. I mean, how many picks do they have over the next, between what they got from the Clippers and now the Rockets? If there is some disgruntled star, Ben Simmons says, I'm out. I know I just signed an extension, but I'm out. Or Embiid, or Giannis. I don't think it's in Giannis's personality. Who has the ammo to pull off the Kawhi-type deal? It's New Orleans and Oklahoma City. It's those teams.
Yeah.
Man, I'm still shocked by this. Oklahoma City, like you were talking about the picks, they in the last week they have gotten 7 first-round picks and 4 pick swaps. That is unreal. Presty, he knows what he's doing. That's all I can say about that. But all right.
I wonder if Chris Paul stays there if he keeps moving. I mean, they're gonna have a hard time finding a place for him, but
yeah,
I don't know where you could move him to, but it doesn't fit on Oklahoma City at his age.
Man, I don't know. I kind of feel like they're stuck with him, and they got him for the picks. Or, I mean, obviously, with what's left on that contract, I don't think you could negotiate any kind of reasonable buyout or anything like that. I think you either have to trade him again or just keep him. But we'll see.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, well, aside from that little bit of breaking news from Woj, Will, this was our last point we're going to talk with you about. You have been high on Luka since day one. You know, you believed in him before he even hit the court. And I saw you tweet this out the other day. I thought it was hilarious. But your guy Stephen A. on First Take, you two had different opinions, I guess, on who was going to be the best rookie coming out of this class. He thought it was DeAndre Ayton, and you kept your receipts, or some guy kept the receipts on Luka and put them on YouTube and everything. But just talk us through that. Have you already let Stephen A. know about that a little bit?
No, I mean, honestly, I haven't. I actually haven't let him know about that. One of the reasons that I am enjoying talking to you guys is I don't get to talk enough Mavericks up here. Neither in the national media nor just in my social life. I'm in New York City. And you can say, well, you have a national radio show. Why you? Look, man, every time I talk Mavericks, some radio programming director's like, why are you talking Mavericks? Like, it doesn't rate. But I forced it in. I get it in where I can get it in. So we haven't talked about it on air, and I don't think Stephen A. would be ready to admit mistake even off air on something like this. I will tell you why I was in on Luka, and I was in on Luka before he was even a Maverick. And this is one of my favorite things in sports. So I told you my kid's into soccer, and one of his coaches talked about this idea called OODA loop. There was a famous fighter pilot named John Boyd, and he developed the F-16 for the Air Force. And he talked about who's the best fighter in a dogfight, and it's the guy who can OODA loop the fastest. That's OODA loop the fastest. I don't know if I'm telling you things you already know. I'm sorry, but it's observe, orient, decide, and act. Constantly go back to the start. Observe, orient, decide, and act. Because a dogfight is a constantly fluid motion, right? You have to make decision upon decision based upon changing information one after the other. And he would talk about it in terms of soccer, right? You got to always be evaluating the field, repositioning where you are, decide, act, do it again, quick. And in soccer, and Matt will appreciate this, the guy that I love, my favorite player is the guy that I feel like runs on a 3-second loop ahead of everybody else. He sees what's going to happen on the field before everybody else. His name's Kevin De Bruyne.
I knew it. Good choice.
He's an amazing and understated midfielder, because these guys are often understated. They're not the most athletic guys on the field. They're not the ones who wow you. But you're always wondering, like, how did he see that pass? How was he to where he needed to be ahead of time?
Right.
And when I started watching Luka highlights on YouTube back when that draft was coming around, I mean, I saw the same thing. The dude was just OODA looping faster than everybody else. He's playing the game 3 seconds ahead of everybody else, and that's going to overcome whatever speed of his step he's missing, or whatever it may be in athleticism he may not have over a guy like John Morant or whoever it may be. It just makes him somebody I'm like, that guy. You want that guy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then a few weeks ago before the draft, we had Mavs director of player personnel, Tony Renzoni, on the pod, and he was, he's really big in helping Donnie Nelson recruit, especially overseas, or scout, I should say, overseas. And he was talking about, they don't have to have great end-to-end speed. The main thing he looks at is footwork. And that's one of the biggest things that Luka has. Kristaps Porzingis, he's got it. It's one of the main reasons they like these Euro players the way they do, because they're looking at the footwork and they're looking how they play the game overall, not just overall speed. So, but Matt, you have anything else to add before we take off here?
No. I mean, I just it's always nice, Will, when you're on First Take. I don't watch it that often because it's on when I'm at work most of the time. But when I do get a chance to catch it, it's always nice when you're on to kind of be the voice of reason among among the talking heads in there.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I saw you on with Ryan Hollins recently, and that was a real good one.
There's some reason it's needed on that set.
But yeah, I mean, we really appreciate you coming on. We'd love to have you again in the future.
Thanks, guys. I'll be happy to do it again anytime. Appreciate it, fellas.
We appreciate it, Will. Have a good one.
All right, see you.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about this breaking news, this Russell Westbrook for Chris Paul trade between the Thunder and the Rockets. So stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, guys, we're back. Again, that was Will Cain that was with us talking about the Mavs and the NBA overall, and how not having any more three-man super teams is good for the league and stuff of that nature. But you can find him at Will Cain on Twitter, and he's got the Will Cain Show on ESPN Radio, and you can also catch him on First Take from time to time. So. But Matt, we're just going to jump right into it, and we talked about it with Will Cain in the first part there, but man, this is I'm still trying to catch up on Twitter and wrap my head around this. We've been talking about how the Mavs could potentially benefit from Russell Westbrook going to either the Rockets or the Miami Heat in a 3-team trade. But I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't even think Chris Paul was tradable. I didn't see this coming, man. So you can give your thoughts on it, but I'm still kind of dumbfounded here.
Well, I mean, when we open up the TradeNBA.com, which, by the way, everybody out there, stop using ESPN Trade Machine. It's garbage. Use TradeNBA.com when you're trying to make up your hypothetical trades. When I got on there earlier to figure out how the Mavs could maybe get involved, I was sending Courtney Lee over to Oklahoma City because he was an expiring deal, and thinking PJ Tucker was going to come in. I saw Chris Paul's salary and Russell Westbrook's salary, and I was like, those things match, but that's just too easy. There's no way they're going to swap star for star. Maybe D'Antoni likes the idea of 3-point guards who just need the ball in their hands all the time. But shit, man, that just blew. I mean, I thought our thing with Will was about to wind down, and we were starting to talk soccer, and then fuck Woj bomb, man.
Man,
I can't. I'm still in shock.
I was really, and earlier today when Twitter collapsed for like an hour, I was just thinking, something's gonna happen with the Russ trade stuff while Twitter's down, and Woj is probably sweating bullets because he can't get it out there. But I mean, it was pretty close because it's happening now, and like you said, I don't know. I don't know, man. I don't know what to say about this. Daryl Morey and Sam Presti agreeing on this deal. I know that Presti is accumulating as many first-round picks as possible. It makes you wonder if there is any other team out there that they could trade Chris Paul to. And it also makes you wonder if they're going into full rebuild mode right now, which it seems like they are. I mean, now you've gotten rid of Kevin Durant. Well, he left you, but you've lost Kevin Durant. You traded James Harden, and now you've traded Russell Westbrook, and they're in full rebuild mode, in my opinion. By the way, that gives me a little bit of hope that the Mavs could, try and do something to get Danilo Gallinari. So
okay, let me interject real quickly, and then we can continue. can you imagine being an Oklahoma City fan right now? First, you had a Kevin Durant jersey.
Well, look, our guy Tyler Upchurch, who he does so many good graphics. He's a graphic designer. He went to Oklahoma. He lives in Oklahoma City, I believe, or somewhere right there near it. But I was texting with him the other day, and where he works, he said there were a bunch of people in that area that they're just depressed. They're just down in the dumps because to them, Russell Westbrook was kind of like their Dirk, and obviously he didn't stay with the Thunder near as long as Dirk did. It was about half the time Dirk spent with the Mavs, but to them, that's how much they loved Russell Westbrook in Oklahoma City. So, I mean, I can't imagine how they're feeling right now.
Well, so imagine though, you buy a Kevin Durant jersey, and then he leaves. And then you're like, oh, well. Or no, first you buy a Harden jersey. Sorry. You buy a Harden jersey, and then he leaves. You're like, okay, well, I'll just get a KD. He's arguably the best player in the NBA. He'll never leave. That next one. So then you have to trade that one in for a Westbrook. And then what do you do now? Do you get a Terrence Ferguson jersey?
They're going to do a 30 for 30 on ESPN one day about that Thunder team. Because
they never won a title with 3 MVPs.
Right. Because, they made it to the finals that year against the Miami Heat. The year before, the Mavs waxed them in the Western Conference Finals, which was amazing. And then the year after that, they got their revenge, sort of, in the first round of the playoffs and went on to the finals to lose to the Heat. And then that's when it all started to fall apart. You have to wonder if Sam Presti, as good of a general manager as he is, you have to wonder if he kind of underestimated James Harden a little bit, because that trade was horrible. I think he traded James Harden for Kevin Martin, if I'm not mistaken.
It was a bad trade. If going back on it, I bet you he wishes that he would have traded Westbrook instead of Harden, and that he would have tried to keep Durant and Harden together.
Or just keep them all together. I mean, if they keep Harden, if they keep those three together, I mean, I think financially that was going to be really difficult. Well, that's probably true. Well, if they would have kept James Harden, it's like you look at Durant right before he left to go to the Warriors. They were up 3-1 on the Warriors in that Western Conference Finals series before the Warriors won 3 straight, and we know how all that went. And then the Warriors blew a 3-1 lead in the finals, and then KD went to the Warriors. But anyway, if they keep James Harden, it's crazy to think about the ripple effect it could have on the rest of the league. Because, I don't know, man, I think they at least win one title if they keep those 3 together. That's just my personal opinion. As close as they were with Russ and KD, and them making it to the finals with that original 3 before breaking it up, I really do think they would have won a title if they kept them all together.
I agree. It's unfortunate. We'll never know. They could have been a real problem for Golden State. You have to think that trio would have been even better than Steph and, Draymond and Clay. But I guess, we're never going to know. But what kind of sucks for us and this podcast and all of our fans listening, and for Will, who we just got off the phone with, is now what the hell do the Mavericks do? Trying to get another player. Do they have to settle for Iguodala? PJ Tucker is not going to be on the market. Clint Capella is not going to be on the market.
Well, and Will, I'm just trying to keep up with my feed here, and he just tweeted out a couple of minutes ago, and he said it while he was on the pod, but OKC and New Orleans won the NBA draft. Both are positioned to be the team to deal for the next disgruntled superstar. And he's absolutely right. They have so many picks and so many young players. Well, New Orleans has more young players than OKC, but still, it's unreal how many picks they acquired. this past week, couple of weeks.
This is unreal.
And then Sam Amick
almost double digits.
Exactly. Sam Amick just tweeted out, and this kills what I was hoping for with Gallinari, but he said, for those who are wondering, sources tell The Athletic that OKC does this deal with full anticipation that Chris Paul will be part of a good team that now has treasure trove of assets. Gallinari, SGA, Adams, Roberson, Noel Core, and 8 new first-rounders.
Okay, so first of all, that's a dumb tweet for one reason and one reason only.
That core is not very impressive, Matt.
That core is not very impressive, but also Noel should not be considered part of anybody's core.
No, not when he's signing 1-year deals, 1-year minimum deals.
No, he's reaching with that. Does Oklahoma City feel that way? I doubt it. I like the idea of Paul and Gallinari and SGA. Those 3 guys are fine, and Adams is good. But Roberson, and Noel, what? Come on,
I'll tell you what, Matt. You know what this makes me think that the Iguodala deal is going to happen.
And you know what else this means?
What?
My Dragic dreams are dead.
It might not be, man.
No, they're dead, Dalton. They're dead and buried, and I'm depressed.
Hey, look. Yeah,
is it messed up that that's the first thing I thought of when I heard about this deal? When I heard about Chris Paul getting traded for Russell Westbrook?
Look, probably, but if the Mavs could still, if they wanted Dragic enough, and I really don't think they do, given what we've heard and what's gone down the last few weeks, even though I know they're interested to a certain degree. I just don't know how much they're interested, but if they could send out matching salary and trade for Dragic if they wanted to give the Heat another asset, because I think the way the Heat are looking at it, he helps them. He helps that team. When you've got Jimmy Butler as your star, and we know how he can be with the young players, as we've seen in Philadelphia and in Chicago, it's almost like they would benefit from keeping Dragic around. Am I saying that right again? I mess up his name every single time.
Dragic. Like Ivan Drago.
Like I've got an itch. I've got an itch in my armpit or something. Dragic. Okay.
You gotta roll the R.
All right. Sorry guys, we have to work this. I have to work this out right now, or I will not remember.
No, but it's probably dead. Now they probably need Dragic. Now they probably need. They do. They do. Miami needs him. Who else is going to score on that team besides Jimmy Butler?
That's true. Well, you can open up your hopes again next summer because he is on an expiring deal. So,
I don't think it has to be next summer. I think it's the trade deadline, because I don't think Miami is going to be as good as they think they're going to be now that they've missed out on acquiring Russell Westbrook. And I think that they'll be, I think they'll make the playoffs in the East, but making the playoffs in the East is not exactly an accomplishment these days. If you're from 8 to 5 in that kind of range, it's like, okay, you're above 500. Congratulations. You want a cookie? So, I think Orlando's better than they are too. What could happen, and we'll wrap it up after this, but what could happen is they see that they're not going to make the playoffs, or that they're not at the upper echelon of the East, and that they need to make another move in order to get up that way, and then maybe they can either A, move Dragic for cap space in the summer, or B, move him in a 3-way deal, a lot like they were trying to do with Jimmy Butler, and then get another star. And that's probably the only way it's going to happen until he's a free agent. And then I have zero doubt that he'll be a Maverick after that.
Well, and like I said, we'll if something else happens with the Mavs, in the trade market or whatever, we we'll consider, coming back on here and doing an emergency pod if it warrants it. If not, maybe we'll have a lot to talk about next week. But, Matt, like I said, I really think, and Fish had the scoop on this last night, that the Mavs were talking with the Grizzlies about Iguodala, and they don't want to take back Courtney Lee, even though it saves them money, and they'd be getting a second-round pick too. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. I don't know who's going to give Memphis any more than what the Mavs are offering for Iguodala. So we'll see how it goes. Guys, that's going to do it for another edition of the Step Back Mavs podcast. We appreciate you coming on every week and listening to us. If you've been following us on Twitter or on the pod account, which is at StepBackMavs, you know that we've got some T-shirts on the way. There's a lot of you that have already pre-ordered. We appreciate that. If you're interested, go to the page, see what the shirts look like. If you want one, send us a DM at StepBackMavs. Tell us your size. They're going to be $25.95 for a Comfort Colors brand, and it'd be $30 if you want them shipped to you, but $25.95 if you want to pick one up at the next Mavericks Meetup, which tell me a little bit more about that, Matt. Obviously, I can't be there. I don't think you're going to be there at this next one either, but Fish will. So tell them a little bit about that next Mavs fan meetup that's happening next weekend.
So it's going to be out on July 19th, which is actually my birthday, guys. If you want to go out to Fish's Bar, it's the Maverick Bar in Carrollton. You can Google it. It's also on Twitter. It's just at the Maverick, I believe, or at Maverick Bar. But basically, it's a lot like what we did at Petty Colas. Reddit at Reddit Mavs on Twitter. He put it together with Tyler Adams, and it's just a meetup with beer and good food and Mavs, Mavs media members. Fish will be there. Skin's gonna be there, I believe. So there's more to come. I'm sure Bobby will be there. One of the guys other guys that writes for our site, Matt Posons, will be there. So if you can, get out there and mix it up with everybody. It's going to be a real good time. As far as the T-shirts go, if you are local in Dallas and you want a T-shirt, you don't necessarily have to get it shipped to you. When you DM us, we can work something else out. We have an idea in mind. But other than that, we would love for you to wear our faces on your body if you are so inclined. So let us know.
And don't worry, guys, if you were one of those people that saw the original T-shirt pic that was posted.
Don't say the nipple thing.
I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to say what I was going to say, Matt, is if you saw that initial picture, we moved the logo up a good 2.5 inches or so we don't have that issue. So if you're interested, let us know. We'll be glad to hook you up. We'll just DM us. We'll go over all the details. But guys, again, we appreciate it. Stay tuned to DallasBasketball.com for all the good writing going on there. Stay tuned to the Step Back for the rest of this summer, and as we get closer to training camp, we have some really big guests set to come on. Just like we did with Will tonight, who was a great guest. So thanks again, guys. We'll see you next week. Have a good one.
Champ, even still coming with the best flow. The man's the best on the flow. I'm wild, but yeah, I'm the GOAT. This game get cold. Yeah, you might need a coach. Your friends turn into your foe. But I'ma just roll. Gotta keep rolling your boat. Yeah, I swear I give them hope. I say I'm cleaner than the soap. This time of year proves who will really sink afloat. For yeah, real. It's the Mavericks, all about action. Don't do no acting, no Samuel Jackson. Dirk at the ball, you know that it's magic. Post move deadly, yeah, get tragic. Yeah, it's the Mavericks, all about action. Don't do no acting, no Samuel Jackson. Dirk at the ball, you know that it's magic. Post move deadly, yeah, get tragic. In this game, it's a lot of grit, you know what I'm saying? Proves who has integrity. Late nights, early mornings, but we all want the trophy at the end of the day. And that's the beauty of this game, because at the end of the day, only the real gonna float, man, for real. You either sink or you float. Only the real gonna float.